So apparently, people don't understand that homeless people are people and that people have more than one need. Because there's this weird ass fucking misconception that all a homeless person needs is food. That's it. Oh, if they want change, oh, but they don't want your food. Oh, obviously, then they want that money for drugs or alcohol. They couldn't possibly want that money for clothes or medication for any sort of medical conditions that they might have, or for, I don't know, a fucking place to sleep, or because, like sometimes they can, and I'm not necessarily saying like for a hotel or something like that, but sometimes they can convince someone to let them stay in their house if they can give them a few bucks. Anyways, or, like, or, and everything else. And also sometimes, like, people say, like, they'll be like, oh, these fucking homeless people, I gave them, I bought them some McDonald's and they didn't want it. And it's like, okay, first of all, you don't know, you offered them food sometimes without them asking for it. And you don't know what dietary needs they might have, because if someone with celiac ends up on the street, they're still gonna have celiac whether or not they're homeless, so they can't have those buns. But, and you don't know, and also, someone like me who has issues with acid, like with my stomach acid and whatever, I can't have things like coffee, and I can't have really greasy food. So I can have McDonald's sometimes, but a lot of the times I can't have it without it making me really sick. So if you were to give me a McDonald's meal, I would end up having to turn it down because it would make me really sick. So, and it's kind of like, either I get burning in my esophagus and nausea and possibly throwing up, or I'm just hungry. I think I'll stick with the hunger. And, like, and also another thing, you don't know if they just ate, because someone else might have offered them some food, and you're giving them food that they have to eat right then and there. I mean, if you're giving them some food which they can eat later, then that's a different story, because they can put it in their bag or their pocket or something like that, and then they can keep it from when they're hungry later. But if they're not hungry right then and there, then they have to, then you've kind of put them in a position where if they're not hungry right then and there, then they're kind of stuck. Being forced to eat something, they could be full because, because everyone's like, I want to help this poor homeless person because I'm such a great person, so I'm going to give them some food. And I mean, I'm not saying that it's a wrong thing to give them food, but the thing is, too, is that you have to realize that, like, homeless people need more than food, and when you're giving them something like that, and something that they can't just pack up and take with them for later, and excuse me, that they're stuck with, and that you don't know what their dietary certain needs are, and oftentimes they're not asking for it. Like, what's spawning this is, there's this fucking thing on Imgur I saw, and basically, what it was that it was this guy, he just came out of this concert, and he saw this guy picking through the trash, and so he bought him a meal at McDonald's, and the guy was like, no, sorry, I don't want to be fat or whatever, which maybe not the best way to say it, but still, first of all, he didn't know the guy was homeless, he didn't know the guy was hungry, he didn't know the guy even wanted anything to eat. And then the comment section was full of all sorts of fucking shit against homeless people, saying their own anecdotes or whatever, saying, oh man, like, they only ever want money so that they can buy drugs or whatever, which I have friends who are currently homeless and whatever. One of them has issues with stomach ulcers, and because she doesn't have an address, she can't get her government drug plan, so she can't get her ulcer medication. So she has to pay out of pocket for the 100% of the cost of the ulcer medication, but she can't get a job because she's homeless, because she doesn't have, so she can't really go applying because she's desperately trying to find a place to sleep every night, and trying to get food, and trying to find a residence and all this other stuff, which is a lot of effort and work and everything else. And it takes a lot of time, energy, and extremely draining, while she's also dealing with fucking stomach ulcers, which causes nausea and cramping and just bloating and just a hell of a lot of discomfort, which just, you know, just makes everything 10 times more difficult. So yeah, she needs money for her ulcer medication. And so if you were to give her food, she probably wouldn't want it, because the thing is that it hurts to eat. So, because if you were to give her McDonald's especially, she couldn't eat it, because greasy food like that, oh, it just kills her stomach. She can only really eat foods that are high in dairy or are very basic, so stuff like toast or crackers or that sort of thing. So if you were to give her, oh, this poor homeless person, not that she's on the street begging or anything like that, because whatever, but like I'm trying to give her as much food out of my cupboard as I can for her because of whatever, but if she was in that situation, she needs the money so she can get her ulcer medication, so she can eat the foods so she can eat whatever. So, and not to mention, these people, you know what? They need socks, they need shoes, they need coats, they need pants, they need underwear. They need to be able to afford a fucking washing machine. They need to be able to afford a shower. Because the thing is that there's more than one basic need, which is what people seem to be forgetting here. Oh, you're homeless? All you need is food. People have more than one basic need. They need shelter, they need food, they need water, they need clothes, and they need hygiene. I don't know why people oftentimes forget the hygiene thing, but it is actually more of a basic need than people realize, because it is a lot harder to do things when you stink. Because the thing is too, is that when you have poor hygiene, it affects your health, because you're much more prone to infection and disease when you're filthy. And because if you have a cut or something, whereas if you're clean and everything else, that could have just healed up in a week or so, that can turn into a really nasty infection, and then you don't have an address, so you can't get a health card, or if you're not in Canada, you can't freaking go to the hospital, and then you could end up, you know, losing a leg or dying. And anyways, even if you have a health card, because you're luckily you're still within the 4 or 5 year bracket or whatever since you last had it, your address, whatever, you can't afford the antibiotics because you don't have an address to have even the government drug plan. So, yeah, but, you know, if you have even some change, you can afford, you know, to go to a laundromat and wash your clothes. You can afford to go and use the showers somewhere. Like, people, just because most of the time homeless people are not drug addicts or alcoholics or whatever. They are people who, they just, like, the system or just life fucking happened and shit fucking, their life fell apart. And as I'm learning, especially with my friends who are homeless, and the things I'm myself, because the thing is that my mom is kicking me out. She says I have till November 1st, but the thing is that she won't. I'm dealing with an abusive home situation right now, and she keeps on telling me, but she won't stop reminding me about how awful it is for me to be here, along with a bunch of other abusive things that are happening, which I'm not going to get into because it's not about me right now, but so I'm very likely going to end up homeless very, very soon, even within the next week, myself. So, and, you know, it's not because I did drugs or anything, or I'm an alcoholic or whatever. It's because I have had, like, I grew up in an abusive household, so I have issues with mental health and abusive mentality and PTSD and whatever the fuck. And the amount of fucking homeless people that are fucking veterans because of PTSD and everything else, so they can't work properly, and because, or they just, or the fucking, all this other because mental health is a huge contributor to homelessness, because there just is not the support needed. And especially for veterans, because they send these people off to war and then they have no support for when they get back. Just fucking bullshit, and I could make a whole video on that. But anyways, most of the time, homeless people, they just are in a rough spot. And as soon as you're homeless, you can't get a job, you can't get an apartment, you can't do anything. So then you're stuck homeless. And the second you end up homeless, it is so hard to stop being, to get back on your feet. So have a little compassion and realize maybe the reason why that person wants money is that they can afford medicine, so that they can afford to take a bath, so that they can afford to wash their clothes, so that they can afford to have clothes, so that they can afford to have a decent place to sleep. Because homeless people are people, and just like any person, they need more than just food. Thanks for watching.